Welcome to A Diary of a Professional Tennis Coach with Mark Gellard and Candy Reid, sponsored by the ERT 300. Okay, welcome to Diary of a Professional Tennis Coach. Mark, it's been a while because we've been in different places, different time zones and all kinds of things going on. You are, in particular, a very busy man. There's a reason you've got Polska written on your T-shirt. Let's start with the Olympic Games because that's where we are right now.
Yeah, we beat Mira Andreeva today in straight sets, 6-3, 6-3, although the score was probably not 100% indicative of how competitive the match is. I mean, obviously, anytime you play Mira, it's going to be tough. So we were ready, although a little fatigued from the last week or so of activity. But yeah, really pleased to get the win. It's her third consecutive Olympic Games and she has yet to win a match. So it was nice today to finally break that curse and get the monkey off the back and not only win, but win in style. I think she's such a great player. So it was a huge win for us and Poland.
What did she do well in particular today?
I got to be honest with you, everything. She's just right now, she's zoned in, serving great, returning great. I think the biggest thing that we've found in the last 10 days or so is that her ability to stay calm after something bad or some adversity. She's not panicking.
It was quite clear, wasn't it, in Prague last week, because it was there that she picked up her third title.
19th and 20th of July, Magda and I held a combined coaching conference / kids day in Poznan, which is the club she's in, the town she's from, Club AZS, and we had a fantastic event there. We had about 75 coaches attend the conference and 172 kids attended her Kids Day, which is all for the Magda Linette Foundation. We'll post a link underneath the video if that's okay, because it's such a great initiative she's done, really trying to help kids in Poland learn sports, not just tennis, all sports, and get an education. So we had some great people coming out supporting the event, and we did that Friday, and Magda left Friday night for Prague with Iain. Saturday, I continued the conference in Poznan, finished Saturday evening, and then flew out Sunday morning to Prague, joined them for the final day of practice. And then we began in Prague with a tough first round against Mona Bartel, who, to tennis fans who know how good she was just a couple of years ago and still is great from some injuries. So we made it through the first round. And in the second round, we played, I think, a fantastic player as well, Rebecca Masarova. Yeah, she's so tough. She's so good. We'd beaten her in Guangzhou last year, but it was very tight. And this time it was 6-3, 6-4.
By this point, are you starting to dream big and think that you might just win the title?
Yes, there was some potential players in there that I felt were really tough for us in the draw. But you always have your eye. I wouldn't say I looked at the draw. I never look at the draw, but you're aware of who's winning and losing around you and of the opportunity as it starts to become a little bigger. So we got through those two, and then we had a really tricky opponent in Victoria Tomova, who's at her career high ranking, playing great tennis and so tough. She's playing so tough on the clay and improved a lot since we last played her a couple of years ago. So that was a real test, that match. Down a set, lost the first set, and then came back in 3. And then the next round, which was the semis, we faced Linda Noskova. And we beat her last year in Rome. But it was, a lot's changed since then. She has really become a player and come into her own. And this match was just incredible. I mean, I don't know if anyone was listening that was there. The atmosphere, the stadium was full with obviously Czech support. It's her local club. So it was really walking into a gladiator ring. And Magda just came out and took advantage of a really good first set, good start. And then second set was just nip and tuck all the way. And she kind of got to us right at the end of the set and won it. And you felt the momentum shift. Magda's energy was starting to drop, especially, I don't want to bore everyone with the details, but the event we'd run in Poznan on the Friday before and Saturday, it's taken a lot of work. And a lot of players put their name on a foundation. Magda doesn't. She puts everything into the foundation. So she's on the ground organizing things in advance. So this was 6 months or so, 5 months of work coming into fruition. So it was a lot of mental fatigue, which we were very worried about, to be honest with you. Is this taken away from her tennis too much? And yeah, she came out in that third set and just hung on early on in the match, in the third, sorry. We just hung on. It was, 1-0, 1-all, 2-1, 2-all. And, we were hanging on to service game. She was cruising. And then somehow we got to 4-3 and we broke serve. And great game to break. She played a sloppy game, though, I'll say. We were opportunistic, but she didn't play a great game.
I was following along at this point.
5-3, and I thought, fantastic. 40 love serving. And thinking, great, where are we going to go for our steak dinner tonight? And I should know better, but 40 love turned into 40-15, 40-30, juice. And we just didn't make any first serves in that moment. And she just went big and made all of the returns for winners. And then we had another couple of match points, and she saved a couple of break points. And eventually we lose the game, 5-all, 5-4, 5-all. And it felt like, this is not going to be our day. And then we did such a great job regrouping, 6-5 up. She held a good game, 6-all. And at that point, I felt like this was not going to be our match. The crowd were very partisan against us, but somehow we turned it around, and she was able to win the tiebreak, I think 7-2.
And then in the final?
In the final, we played Magda Frank. So it's like an N in that name. Frank, yes. It's we played her in the final. We lost to her 2 years ago in St. Malo, so we knew it was going to be tough. We know her. We know how tough she is. And we came out and played as, in tennis, there's no such thing as perfection, but that's about as close as you can be to perfection on a tennis court.
So
flawless from start to finish. Anyone that follows women's tennis, WTA, knows how, Magda Frank is so tough. She has so many 3-set matches. She doesn't give you anything. To beat her 2-1 was really outstanding and very satisfying to Magda because we'd lost a few finals in the last 2 years, and I know it meant a lot to her to finally get one. It was the first all-Polish final in the Open era.
And how were you feeling when she won that final point?
Usually, same as always, is never happiness. It's just relief. I'm just less annoyed than I was 5 minutes ago. It was really, I was so happy for her, because if anyone deserved it at that moment after all she does for everyone else, it's her. So she couldn't be more deserving. And the only not frustrating, what's the word? The only sort of disappointing part is due to the Olympics. I'm talking a lot, so people can skip forwards to something else if they get bored listening to me. But so after the match, Paris had closed the airspace for 150 kilometers because of the opening ceremony, which Magda was really disappointed she wasn't going to make by being in the finals, but we'll take that. And so we were in a problem. We started looking at, do we fly somewhere else? Do we start driving now? It's 12 hours from Prague to get there. And of course, Magda Frank is in the same situation with their coach, Andrzej Kobieski, who's my roommate for this week. And Magda put up a tweet on X that said something along the lines of, does anyone have any suggestions on how to get to Paris last minute with this closed airspace? Long story short, and it really is incredible, a Polish billionaire reached out to her and just wrote back, DM me, I can help. So he essentially organized a private jet to pick us up at Prague Airport, Terminal 3, which was just incredible in itself, going to a private check-in. You walk in, I've never done it before, I've never experienced a private jet. You walk in, there's no check-in desk, there's just concierge that meets you at the front. Very small, very small. No bigger than a tennis court in size, and helps us with our bags. They take your bags for you. There's no checking in process, tickets, etc. And you have a private lounge to sit in while we waited. And then we went through security and boarded the flight. So it was me and Iain, Magda Linette, Magda Frank, and then Andrzej, her coach. We had this nice aircraft that took us all the way in with some food and drinks, and 2 pilots, and it was fantastic. I mean, just an incredible experience. So lucky to have had that opportunity presented to this kind individual from Poland who really literally did save us. And it was it still hasn't all processed yet. In the last 48 hours we've won a title, had a little bit of revenge over someone that beat us last time, historic all Polish final, private jet, arrived that night, and it was pouring with rain, into the Olympic Village, which whatever you hear or read on social media, I will say it's outstanding. I mean, I haven't got another Olympics to compare it to, so I don't have a comparison. But the atmosphere, the energy, it's 24 hours a day, just things happening and people walking around and riding bikes and food is everywhere. And my favorite thing is everyone gets a keychain and there's vending machines everywhere, and you just tap your keychain.
Sounds like an amazing Olympic experience. And I must say, we are on the commentary side this week and next, and we've been treated very well indeed as well. I'm glad you're having the same experience. A couple of things just coming to mind, Mark. Firstly, I think you need to do more foundation events, because obviously it's the way to success. And the other thing is, how do you bottle confidence? Because Magda must be on top of the world right now.
Yeah, as I said to Magda after she won the final, I said, maybe we need to have you come more tired to events more often, because I almost feel like, I do believe that part of it was maybe just a bit of karma, if it exists, where I just feel like she deserved it. But I think more than anything, it's just she was so exhausted, and maybe the perspective that she gained while being on court with these kids that looked up to her so much, it made an impact on her, and she really embraced it. And when she came to to Prague, it was almost like actually being at the tournament was calmer and slower and easier than anything we'd been doing that past week. We'd been up at sort of 5:30 a.m. every day the week before, preparing everything at the courts, getting presentations set up, helping the club organize things, and then practicing in general anyway. And the satisfaction we both had out of it was it gave you such a pleasant feeling, and such a feeling of, it's so cliche, but of appreciation, and just seeing how many kids came. 172 was more than we expected, and we really think we delivered a nice product. So I hope we can do more, and I hope that more people can help us run that event in the future. Sponsors, etc. Just with so many people were generous with their time, with supplying food for the event. Bouncy castles, face painting, Yoma and Yonex were fantastic.
It just shows you that good things happen to good people. And having done this podcast now for over a year and a half, we know how hard you all work and how difficult it is to win a title. And now Magda has 3. So a job well done. And hopefully the Olympic run will keep going in both singles and doubles. Now, Mark, you need to go and rest because it's been a long day. But last week, while I was in Hamburg, I had a chat with the tournament director of many tournaments, including the Kooyong Classic, Peter Johnston. I don't know if you've heard the interview. It was quite interesting because he talks about how difficult it is from a tournament director's point of view, especially when you've got an all-star lineup and then at the last second someone pulls out. It happens to every tournament. You just have to go with the punches, but it's not easy. And I can imagine that you feel a lot of sympathy for Peter.
100%. I mean, we were discussing tonight in the village restaurant about how incredible it is that they organise this event and how many moving parts there must be. And last week, with the event we ran, we had an unfortunate last-minute withdrawal where Judy Murray was unable to join us. She was supposed to be there helping us. And without putting Judy on the spot, it really was chaotic after she withdrew, because, you've marketed the event, you've sold the event based on her attendance to the coaches, especially for the conference part. But things happen, I understand that. But it really is tough. And I think tennis players... I think every tennis player should run their own event and get a feeling of how difficult things are to keep all the pieces in place.
Peter Johnston, welcome to Diary of a Professional Tennis Coach. It's lovely to have you on the pod.
Thank you, Candy. Looking forward to talking to you.
Where do we find you, Peter? You're not in your native Australia.
No, I'm actually in Hong Kong at the moment. We are building I came here after Wimbledon, and we're building over the Asian swing. There's a WTA 125, a WTA 250, and an ATP 250, and we're badging it all under the Hong Kong tennis series. So I'm here developing that at the moment.
And you used to be a tennis player, didn't you? What moved you into tournament directing?
I played until I was 26, and then I retired. A bit of you described me as a journeyman, like I was top 200 level. But then I went straight into tennis development in Australia. Tennis Tennis Victoria had some, like, it was the olden days, if you like, but they had this job where I could kind of coach the state squads and also develop programs and events. And I got into running satellite tournaments in around Victoria because I felt like that's what they needed. And there was a couple of guys I knew who would sponsor things, and that got me more interested in the machinations of running an event. So I guess I've stayed close to that. If you're doing player development, that's kind of never ending and a bit unspecific, but you can, I guess, have a skill set in tournaments, and it's so varied. Like, you can go in the broadcast area or the operations area or the marketing area, the sponsorship area, or all of the above. So it's probably enabled me to keep a career going up to my ripe old age.
And now you are the tournament director of multiple tournaments?
Yeah, I have my own business, and I've had that for the last 10 years, and I am kind of a tournament director for hire as such, but I don't define myself that way, but that's kind of where I end up. And a lot of the tournaments on the tour are, they're all properties, as we know, like they're like housing, like people lease, people buy them. And I try and get in the middle of that to some degree to bring a tournament to town and say, hey, look, I've got the expertise to work in with the local team and play a role as generally as the tournament director, because the tournament director is the one who knows the tennis. And often when you take it, especially in China, where I've done a bunch of tournaments, I'm doing one in Hangzhou in 2 weeks after the US Open. We moved from a city called Zhuhai, which we were there a number of years, but they have a strong sports bureau and local team, but not kind of the tennis specifics. So I kind of position myself as the tennis guy, especially liaison with the international side, that securing the players, making sure it's compliant. I fill in gaps, basically. It's kind of case by case, but you can go in. You kind of got to adapt to whatever the local circumstances is to work out what your actual role is.
And I'd imagine you'd have to adapt to the cultural differences as well, because you're working a lot in China. There's probably a few things that get lost in translation.
Oh, a number of things. It's more what I can find, basically. No, but I've been doing China a long time. I actually came to China. I worked for the WTA as I was the senior vice president of operations in Florida for 4 years, and then I ran the Beijing office for the WTA for 3 years, based in Beijing, and that sort of was just the time that Linette had won the French, and that led to that kind of explosion of the WTA tournaments. So then all of these, I was like the WTA guy, so I got to meet the people in the cities and got to know the Chinese scene pretty well. But I've sort of, especially with COVID and being my own business, I've kind of had to go, like, I've done tournament. I did an ATP event in Russia for 8 years, which we sold to Kazakhstan because I did a WTA event in Kazakhstan during COVID. And then I do this EXO in Australia, the Kooyong Classic, which that's a whole different beast because that's an EXO. So you're not getting like a player entry as such, like you're cobbling together a field based on, who you can secure and what story you can tell them. And, you're finding your own broadcast and those things. So it's all, I guess, varied, Candy, like so varied. Then you just got to be prepared to go from one skill or non-skill to one where you've got some skill.
I'm fascinated by Kooyong because it's a little bit like Boodles that they host just before Wimbledon. How on earth do you recruit players for that? Because it's not an actual tournament, is it? It's an exhibition. So I'd imagine you're paying the players to play 1, 2, or 3 matches.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I've been doing that for like 9 years. And in fact, the Boodles and Stoke Park, Boodles is Stoke Park, but the Hurlingham, the Armani EXO, they were both initially modelled on Kooyong because a guy named Colin Stubbs started 34 years ago. He's passed away, sadly, and he was a real pioneer of tennis in Australia. He was tournament director of the Australian Open as well. And he sort of, what the whole theme is of how you can get the players is to provide the ideal lead up to the Australian Open. And so over the years I've been doing it, even we've really tried to adapt the format to stay nimble and what the slams are doing and still make it a proposition for the players. And by that I mean nowadays, especially with the Australian Open moving to a Sunday start, the week before, I've always felt like the week before a slam, the players don't want a full week's regular tournament. And that's where I am a bit surprised when I see the size of like a Badgerstein tournament lead up to towards Wimbledon. Tough to play on the continent. Expect to play 5 matches, then get over and play Wimbledon. It's really not what players are after. And so how I position Kooyong is ultimately, when I first started, we're trying to get players to play 3 matches. Now it's play 1 or 2. and like, say, for example, Sinner actually won the Kooyong Classic. The winner is determined by whoever, I can't even say this with a straight face, but whoever wins, whoever beats the highest ranked player without losing is the winner. And so anyway, Sinner, he wanted 2 matches before the Australian Open, so he wanted to start off with I don't want to degrade Mark Polmans, but he's the local Kooyong guy, but he thought he'll play Polmans on day 1 and like to play Casper Ruud on day 2. Yeah. So I said, done. You want to play? Done. So if you can comply with what the players' wishes are and shape the tournament around it, you can end up pretty strong. And but if I go in with the opposite approach of going, right, Yannick, and especially with Darren Cahill, that discussion, I say, right, we play 3 matches, and if you win, you go, well, thanks for playing. And also, the Australian Open are doing exhibition matches at the same time in that week 0, building that concept out, as are the other, as is the French and US Open. So you've just got to be very player friendly and player focused, and really, Candy, it gets worse because I always felt like from the time I've been doing it, you've got to have women playing, but it's so tricky with the WTA rules of top 50 can't play, and now they extended it to even if you've been a former Grand Slam champion or number 1. And so, like a couple of years ago, I had Sharapova play her last matches there because she was outside top 50. Now you can't get that. It's the fines are up to 100,000 US. Ooh. So, it's just massive. And for the WTA, it's kind of like a tab. Like they're happy for you to have them, but you'll have to pay the fines. So an EXO becomes, how can you fit in with the tour landscape and still find room? And that's why you see the Boodles and the Armani Classic, I guess, because there's only a short lead up to the grass court season. You get players who are coming off the French, just have a couple of quick matches there, and that's enough for them to get to grass court. Same sort of scenario in Australia with the Kooyong Classic. But it's always a battle. We have to find our own TV, find our own sponsors. That's and it's the proposition to the players all the time. Can you come and you don't want to sign them too early because that costs you more, but you want to get them early because you want to promote them, and you're holding your breath, and also you'll get the last minute withdrawals. Someone sees the draw come out for the Australian Open, so suddenly their fingernail hurts and they pull out, and you just got to just keep going on the phone list. I think I had last Kooyong Classic had 23 different WhatsApp groups going on. I think probably 23. It was only 12 matches, like 4 matches over each day over 3 days, but went through that many player deals, if you like, to cobble together the field. But that's kind of the gig. If you're in the EXO world, except if you're Laver Cup, which gets endorsed by the ATP, which is a bugbear of mine. But if you're in the EXO world, you're really on your own. So you have to be prepared for that, basically.
I'm surprised you sleep at night. You must drink a lot of whiskey, because that sounds really stressful.
well, actually, a Kooyong is, it's crazy because I'll do tournaments in, as I said, like I've been doing Tel Aviv, Kazakhstan, 8 years in Russia, a lot of China. But the one I can't sleep is the one that I can walk to the courts at Kooyong. That's the one. And a couple of years ago, I had Alcaraz. He just won the US Open. I got him at Hurlingham in that year. He played Hurlingham, so I thought, well, that can suit his lead up to Wimbledon. Then he won the US Open. He announced him really early, did the full-on marketing around the event, finally getting this guy, and it was about 3:00 in the morning, I think 2 days before the event. My phone pings, and I saw it was from Albert Molina, his manager. Yes. I just saw the first word said "unfortunately," and I just threw the phone across the room and knew that's what I was dealing with. So that's how it rolls.
Do you think the players realise how much effort the tournament directors and everybody involved is putting into it?
When they probably look, I guess one thing is you've got to always be smiling and be up and about.
Yes.
Like I think the minute the tournament director looks a bit dejected and downtrodden, that's going to drag the whole vibe down. And I just think, like, when you get the withdrawal, especially on a Kooyong thing, you just go, thanks, okay, right. Sometimes I'll say, if it's usually through the agent, say, hey, have you got a replacement for me? Can you suggest someone else? You just got to keep moving on, because also with the agents, because ultimately, no matter what relationship you have with the players, you'll end up talking to the agent, which is fair enough. That's the business, because it's a transaction which the player doesn't want to do himself. Even with say Yannick Sinner, like Darren Cahill is a good old buddy of mine. I'll talk to him and he'll give me the heads up that this can work well, but then I'll have to talk to Lawrence, his agent. That's just kind of the way it is. So if you get too upset or by feeling like you're burnt or something, well, you just got a business is business, and you just have to keep trucking on. Otherwise, it's just like any business, right?
Well, especially you've got to be nice to the agents, because if you're not nice, you're not going to get them back, are you? So you've got to keep that smile on your face. Look like you're doing a good job of that.
Yeah, it's true. But at the same time, I don't think there's too many. No one's banking favors either. I think each one, like, you can have a great relationship with an agent, but if it doesn't work for the player, I mean, I tell you where the relationship helps in the negotiation, probably, because they know that, like, I might offer a certain amount, because we live in the guarantee world, and so you might offer a certain amount. They know that it's from a certain tournament that might have a capacity to play, or the tournament, we know that we've got to pay more in that week. Like, say, Hangzhou is in Labour Cup week, so the prices are high if you want to get strong players. The prices at Kooyong are far less, because it's all about cramming. They need the classic, So, but you've got to probably have a relationship with the agents that is, I guess, mature enough that you just you can just go, look, here's what it is, and then you're not bluffing, or they're not bluffing, or So,
it's a business deal, like you said. Last question. I'd definitely love to have you on again, because I've got so many more, but this is the last question for round one anyway. I noticed at the French Open, they gave all their wildcards essentially to local players. In the Wimbledon draw, the wildcards went to a lot of former major champions on the women's side, and then all male players on the men's side. How do you do your wildcards?
So wildcards, well, depending on the country, but it's certainly in China, there's a heavy emphasis on from national players. Like, I think we have to get the input from the CTA on that. It'll depend, really. I look, as a general rule, you're looking pretty strongly at either local talent or marquee talent. So let's say Hong Kong got a great young guy, Coleman Wong, ranked about 160.
Yes.
Guaranteed a wildcard in the Hong Kong event for sure. But then you're looking for the marquee players. It's interesting, as you touch on the slams, it's probably a whole other subject, but to the degree that they either give their 8 to the locals, or they go all in on Grand Slam champions, or they go a bit of a hybrid. Sometimes it depends on what talent the Slam nations have got, but generally you're looking at either at marquee or local content, because you're looking for box office at that stage. So that's the way it's determined.
All right, brilliant. Peter Johnston, thank you very much for chatting. As I said, I'd love to speak to you further because I remember talking to Craig Tiley and asking him when he began preparations for the Australian Open. He said pretty much the day after the previous one finishes. And I'm sure it's not quite as bad for you at 250, maybe 500 level, but I know how much organising it does take. So you are a very impressive person. Good luck and continue all the good work. And I'd love to chat again.
No, thank you so much. Great to talk to you.
Thanks again, Peter, and thank you, Mark. We'll do this again, hopefully very soon.
Candy, I want to give honest. Today, we arrived last night, or yesterday, sorry, which was, what day did we get in? That was Friday. Yeah, Friday. So Friday after the match, we arrived late in the evening. We flew to Lille on this private jet, and then he organised a limousine for us to the courts. When we arrived on site, we had to get a racket strung. And we sent one in to see how it came out, used our new ERT machine, which showed us that they were stringing loose at the Olympics. So luckily, having that ERT, we were able to immediately cut out the string they just used, send it back along with 3 others and up the tension by 1.5 kilos.
Great to hear. It really is a handy device. I haven't used mine yet, but once I get home and back on the court, I'll be using it with a vengeance. Well, thank you everyone for listening to Diary of a Professional Tennis Coach. We'll see you next time.